Hey, do you have Dutch ancestry? Do you have Dutch Jewish ancestry? We're going to be talking about that today in just a moment. But before we get started, let me introduce myself. My name is Connie Knox. I am a lifelong genealogist here to help you go further, faster, and factually with your family research. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so that you get notified each time we upload a video. Also know that Genealogy TV has a newsletter. It's growing quickly, so make sure that you get on the list. A link for that is in the show notes below. Now, footnotes. I call them footnotes episodes because it's in the footnotes where the real sources are. And today's real source is a guy named Jarrett Ross. He is a professional genealogist out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and a fellow YouTuber like me. His YouTube channel is called Genie Vlogger, and he specializes in a lot of things, but one of the things he's talking about today is Dutch research and how to research the Netherlands with your Jewish ancestry. We're going to get going right now. Today I have Jarrett Ross with me. He is out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and he's here to help us understand a little bit about Dutch Jewish ancestry.
Yes, Dutch Jewish ancestry.
Welcome to Genealogy.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for coming. I'm glad you could help us out because this is not my area of expertise. So tell us, where would someone start?
Well, with Dutch Jewish genealogy, most people who have that are people whose family left the Netherlands sometime before World War II. And part of the reason for this is because of the Holocaust. A lot of people know about Anne Frank and that a lot of Jews were killed in the Holocaust. So a big majority of those who descend from Dutch Jewish ancestry may not even really know about it. So what the first place you want to actually look at are a lot of the websites that are already being populated by a lot of people. You have Ancestry.com, Family Search, just any of those websites. You can go on there. They have a lot of the records from the Netherlands, and a big part of that is because the Netherlands passed a law that makes it so that government documents are free to the public, and any website that publishes these documents has to make them free, obviously with a few caveats in terms of, living people and things like that. But there is a lot that you can find just right off the bat from Family Search. Birth records, marriage records, death records. You can find different types of population registers, what they call bevolking registers. A few of those are on these different websites. And the Dutch kept a lot of records. And anyone, awesome. Anyone who's had Dutch ancestry in general, not just Dutch Jewish, they have a lot to choose from in terms of, civil records, probate records, government records. They even have entire catalogs of just notes from the 18th century and 17th century. And within the Dutch Jewish communities, especially the Dutch Jewish Sephardic community, there is a lot, about a billion, maybe more records. It's pretty hefty.
That's awesome. That's incredible. So where does one find these websites?
Well, the general Dutch websites you can find are, I guess there's about 3 or 4 of them. One of them is called openarch.nl. Openarch.nl is one of the ones that is actually, a lot of their records are already on Family Search, so they're already indexed so that if you go on Family Search, you'll find a lot of the things on OpenArch. Another one is called WeWasWe.nl, and that's spelled WIEWASWIE, and it's Dutch for who was who. All these websites are in Dutch, but they're easily translated to English, and a lot of them, like on WeWasWe, you can see up to the top right, you have inlogin for the you can change it to English. EN stands for English. And a lot of the Dutch websites are like this. They're going to have English versions of it. Another of the major websites are one for Amsterdam. And that one is actually just Archief.amsterdam. And Archief is spelled ARCHIEF. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, so that one, that's the indexes. There's two parts to it.
Okay.
So we have the indexes and we have the inventories. The inventories are everything that's been cataloged. And I mean, there's a lot in there. But if you look over to the right, you'll see preface, inventory, PDF. When you click the ones that actually say inventory, that takes you into the inventory. The one right below the one you clicked, you see how it says 667 scans? That one actually has scans that you can look at. So now we're in here. And so this shows you everything, composition of the committees. It's a really great website. And most everybody who has Dutch ancestry has some sort of connection to Amsterdam. You know, it's literally the New York of the Netherlands. You know, New York is New Amsterdam. So,
right.
You know, everyone in the U.S. has a very close connection to New York in some sort of way. It's kind of like the 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon, you know? But for genealogy, and it all goes back to New York, and it's the same thing with Amsterdam. So it's a really great website. Even if you don't have ancestors who lived in Amsterdam, there might be something in there on your ancestors. But the index part of that website, that has what's called the Ondertrouw registers, which are what's known as marriage bonds. It's basically kind of like a marriage agreement that is posted publicly. So the Ondertrouw register, so if you scroll down, you'll see the Ondertrouw registers. It's spelled O-N-D. Trying to see where it is. Oh, it just translated back to English. I'm so used to just looking at it.
Oh, sorry. I go back. What is it you're looking for?
So I know it's called the Ondertrouw registers. I believe they're calling it underlying registers, 1565 to 1811.
Okay.
So,
oh,
yeah.
Nice.
So here's a page. So there's 3 to each page. So there's 6 total on this one. And these are something that are put out before marriages. So you see these 2 that are crossed out, and actually looking at the signatures underneath, you can see it's the same person. And it basically looks like both marriages, when it's crossed out like that, a lot of times it can mean that the marriage was denied for some reason or whatever. And it looks like that marriage was tried once or twice, because that's the same signature underneath. Huh. So, but this is an Ondertrouw register. And at the top of the page, if you scroll up just a tad, you can kind of see it right now. Yeah, that is the year. And these go from 1565 until 1811. And interestingly enough, the history behind why it stops in 1811 is because that was when Napoleon's decrees on how documentation was going to be taken were implemented in the Netherlands. So after 1811, there's a big change. So these Ondertrouw registers, also known as marriage bonds, only go for that long. But they trace back to 1565. And within my own family, I actually trace back to the original members of the Portuguese Jewish community. And the first documents that we have on them are 1592 Ondertrouw registers for them.
Wow.
And so
pretty cool stuff here.
Yeah. And it's not that hard to really understand either. Even if you don't know Dutch, all you have to do is just kind of learn a couple of different terms. And then just like all other handwritten documentation from the 16th, 17th, 18th century, it all depends on who was writing it. So sometimes it's real easy to read, and other times it's good luck.
It's interesting, as I'm scrolling down, it's translating to English.
Yeah. That's the fun of the automatic Google Translate. I'm guessing you're using Chrome.
I am.
It's something that's really useful with Dutch Jewish, or just Dutch genealogy in general, if you don't speak Dutch.
It's kind of similar what you were saying. I do Danish research. I have Scandinavian ancestry, and so I'll do the same thing with the Danish. Once you learn a handful of those terms, I do use the Google Translate, and there's a Google app for that too now, right?
Yeah, I love the Google app for that.
Especially if you're traveling. But so I'll do that, with the Danish stuff too. But one of the things that I have found is a huge tip
Uh-huh.
is, and this kind of two tips in one,
Yeah.
is I've made friends on Facebook with people in Denmark.
Yeah.
And I also found some cousins through DNA testing that are Danish, that we
Oh,
descend
nice.
from the same great grandparents,
Yeah.
right? And and so they've translated some of that stuff for me, because it's hard. I mean, you're sitting here
Yeah.
looking at that example. Um, you got to not only understand how the curly cues are working, and
Yeah.
but when you're doing it in a different language, it helps to have somebody who really actually reads it. So
Oh, yeah. And with Jewish ancestry too, you get a lot of Hebrew, which is a whole different alphabet. And so, trying to understand a new alphabet and then trying to understand the handwriting, because the handwriting is always just a little bit different than what you see on that print. So, yeah.
interesting. If we go back to this, now that I actually had it up for a moment,
Yeah.
is there anything that you wanted to
Well,
take
this
with this?
this is a really easy website to use. Just right in the middle, search for a name. I mean, you can just type in anything. So, family name of mine is Nunes Vaz, Nunes space VAZ. So this is a main family that I research in the Netherlands. My mother was born Nunes Vaz, and it gives you all sorts of different things on here. So if you look over to the right, all the way, it's telling you the documents. So family advertisements. You have begraven, which is having to deal with burials. The Bevolking Register is a population register, which is actually a really nice one because it will tell you what happens to the people. So you can see the family, and then you can see if they moved, if someone died, if there was a baby born. They're very great. And then you have all sorts of different stuff from the different regions of the Netherlands. So you'll have, I believe it's focused on Holland. For those that don't know, I know a lot of people will get Holland and the Netherlands mixed up. Holland is a province, or it's an area within the Netherlands, and it's actually broken up into different parts. So there's Nord Holland, North Holland, which is actually where Amsterdam is.
Okay.
So, but this is just, it's a really easy website to use. And with the refined results, you can just choose different filters. So you can choose a collection of the region. You can change your document type if you just want to look for your different, if you want to look for all of your different, court registers, death certificates, something specific. You can also look for a specific role if someone was, the head of the household or anything like that. And then you can also choose your organization. So if there was something that they were connected to, if you know that you had a family that was part of something, or you're looking for, this is breaking it also down into where the archives are coming from. So you have the Noord Hollands archive, the Stads Archief.amsterdam. That is actually the website we were on before for the
Okay.
Amsterdam archive. So that's coming from there. So they only have 1,043 documents on the family coming from there. But one of the nice things about a lot of these websites is they all kind of overlap each other. So you want to check each one, but with each one, you can kind of get a different view into the same documents. So if you're not very great with translating, going into these different ones, they break it down in different ways. And then here, Open Arch, this one is the one that has a lot of stuff on family search. So if you go to family search, use their website, you'll find a lot of stuff on there. But same thing with this, very simple search. You can also use their advanced search. And one of the things I really like about Open Arch is they try to present the data in a way different than most other websites. So if you find a document, you can actually find it presented where if it knows a little bit of a family tree where it shows, maybe a marriage and it shows the parents' names, it'll present that in a family tree sort of fashion. And then it'll also, if you scroll down, it gives you the source citations, and then usually right around down here, if there were other documents that were connected to this person, it would list them for you.
Oh, nice. So it's kind of cross-referencing.
Exactly. So it's even once you find a document, it automatically does. It's almost like the ancestry, the hints on ancestry.com. It's
Nice.
automatic with each document.
So let's jump over to this one.
So Dutch Jewry, this is where you're going to start going if you know that you have Dutch Jewish ancestry. The other websites have a lot of stuff on Dutch Jews, but this one is specifically designed for Dutch Jewish ancestry. And when you speak about Dutch Jewish ancestry, there's two different sides to it. You have your Ashkenazi Dutch Jewish ancestry, and you have your Sephardic Dutch Jewish ancestry. And they're
Okay.
both they both trace very far back. The Sephardic community, also known as the Portuguese Jewish community of Amsterdam, that traces back to the late 16th century. And these were the Jews who were kicked out of Spain and Portugal because of the Inquisition. And actually, most of them had lived as conversos in Spain and Portugal, basically meaning they had converted and their families had stayed for generations as pretend Catholics. And the Portuguese Jewish community was founded by people who had, they didn't even know their Jewish ancestry. They knew that they had Jewish ancestry and then they knew that that was part of them, but they didn't even know how to be Jews. And when they founded the community, there was a Ashkenazi rabbi who was nearby who actually, I don't know if he was Ashkenazi. I think he was a mix, but he actually taught them how to be Jews. He circumcised them. He taught them all the laws and the rituals, and that's how that community was founded. The Ashkenazi community, which are, your German Jews, your Eastern European Jews, a lot of them were escaping the 30 Years War and a lot of what was going on in the early 17th century. And they started to come over to Amsterdam because Amsterdam had it where you could be religiously open for anything. You have a big Mennonite community in Amsterdam too, because religious freedom was much better there. It wasn't great, but it was better. And with the Ashkenazi community, they came in, but they weren't as well established as the Portuguese Jewish community. So there's a connection between them because the Portuguese Jewish community actually created different societies to help the Ashkenazi Jews learn trades and how to better themselves and get work and things like that. But the documentation between the two are very different.
How does one figure out which branch they belong to? You
It's
know?
it's a mixture of the surnames and then finding where they are in the documentation. So going back to the Ondertrouw registers, which we were talking about from the Amsterdam
Right.
archives, if you have the Portuguese Jewish ancestry, your families had surnames that trace back to the 1600s, 1700s, things like that. So if you find them in the Ondertrouw registers with a surname that is the same surname as their parents, then that is very likely going to be Portuguese Jewish ancestry. And you're probably going to see a Portuguese or Spanish type of name. Perez, Nunes Vaz, Robles, Enriquez, a lot of those types of names, you're
Okay.
going to know that. Whereas with the Dutch Ashkenazis, they had a very typical Ashkenazi naming system. Ashkenazi Jews didn't really adopt surnames. They just had a name of son and then father. So, I'm Jarrett, son of Richard. That would be my name if there were no surnames, or, in Hebrew. So,
Right.
if you find in the Ondertrouw registers, you often find that the child will have a different name than the parent because the parent was a child of somebody else. So you might have, Joseph Abrahams, son of Abraham Solomons,
Mm-hmm.
or things like that. And so if you find that, probably going to be Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry. Now, the Portuguese Jews and the Ashkenazi Jews were, for the most part, endogamous to themselves. So by that, what I mean is that they only married within their community. So you're not finding a lot of the Sephardic Jews marrying the Ashkenazi Jews. It happens, and it's usually very rare up until the 19th century when things start to change, especially after Napoleon comes in. But before that, it's kind of like a scandal. If you find a Ashkenazi man marrying a Sephardi woman, that's going to be a scandal. And often what will happen is the woman from the Sephardi community will no longer be part of that community, and she'll have to be part of the Ashkenazi community.
She gets ousted out of her own community.
Pretty much, yeah. And,
Yeah.
she'll have contact with her family, and it's not like they won't see her, but she's not part of the community, which means a lot in the sense that the community really was the center of everything, especially for the Portuguese Jewish community of Amsterdam. They had different things to help support you if you were poor, if something happened. They had something called tzedakah, which is actually common among all Jews. Mm-hmm. But tzedakah is basically just something to help out the community, help the people who were less fortunate. And then you have a lot of different other programs that are helping all of these different people. And if you end up getting out of that community, well, all of your rights to any of that are now gone in their eyes. So, you still have your connection with your family and all of that, but you're no longer going to get any of the benefits of that community you were once part of.
Wow, my mind is blown. So
Yeah.
Tell me about your blog.
So my blog is something that I actually started well before I ever wanted to become a professional genealogist. It traces back to 2011 or so, which is about 2 or 3 years into me being seriously into genealogy. Back then, my main focus was Sephardic ancestry, and specifically the Sephardic Dutch ancestry, mostly because my mom's maiden name is Nunes Vaz, and a very typical Sephardic name. But I started to just kind of write about things I was finding, and I started to really get big, and you're looking at it now with the Consideration series. And basically what it is that Spain and Portugal years back passed laws that allow people with proven Sephardic ancestry to get a fast-track citizenship. And this is really big because if you get a Spanish or Portuguese passport, you have a European Union passport. And so this has been huge in the community of anyone who's a Sephardic descendant, because now you have the option to become a Spanish or Portuguese citizen. This is actually something that I am pursuing soon. My sister is going to be pursuing it too, and I have a few cousins who have hired me to help them as well. So it's something that I actually have cousins who have already obtained their citizenship, and I know a lot of people who've already obtained it. But with the website just in general, it's something that, I write a lot about just my personal stuff, but I also kind of try to write articles to help those who are looking into Sephardic ancestry. So I actually have a whole article that's about the Beth Hayim Cemetery for the Sephardic Jewish community, and that you can find all sorts of records, and they're great because the records reference what records they're getting the information from the archives. So
sounds like you're a busy guy.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot to dive into, but it's absolutely interesting, and it's what really got me into it was I found genie.com, which is a website where their idea is the world family tree. If you find family trees connecting, merge them together, now we have one big family tree, as opposed to Ancestry, which you have your tree, and if you connect, well, that's great, but you've got to add what they have to your tree. And so if there's errors or anything like that, you have no way of correcting it. With Genie, if there's an error, you can go and correct it. So
it's kind of like Family Search too, though, no?
It's exactly like Family Search. So I believe that they're called collaborative trees. Uh-huh. Genie's been around for a little bit longer, and that's why that got me into it. I have been using Family Search for years too, though. But with Genie and the Sephardic Jewish community of Amsterdam, we could actually start to connect all of these different family trees that for years everyone had focused on. We'll all focus on the Nunes Vaz family, and we'll all focus on the Vaz Diaz family, and all focus on the Enriquez Pimentel family. Whereas now everything's starting to fall in together, and it's a lot easier to collaborate. So I actually on a daily basis am talking with people in Australia, in London, in Amsterdam, in Italy, in, you know, all over the world, because they all descend from the Sephardic community, but we all have this specific interest in all of these same families. So just kind of both of all of that combined, it just
Spell that website.
GENI.com. One of the big things that people really love about this website, the bigger marketing things, is that if once you get connected into the big tree, the world tree, then you can actually find out how you're related to almost anybody. So you can, you know, you can go on there and find out how are you related to Abraham Lincoln, even if it's, you know, your third cousin once removed's wife's uncles, great nieces, whatever, you know. What one of the Genie users, a guy named Steve Jarrett, he's nicknamed it the Spaceballs relationship. So if anyone has seen Spaceballs, there's a part in it where they make fun of the, you know, Luke, I'm your father. And he says something like, you know, I'm your, you know, mother's brother's half cousin's roommate, or so, you know.
I see it's a MyHeritage company.
Yes. Back in 2015, 2016, not too long ago, a few years ago, MyHeritage bought Genie. MyHeritage being an Israeli-based company and well known for their DNA kits now. But they had bought Genie because MyHeritage's focus was documentation, whereas Genie's focus is the world tree. And by bringing those together while still keeping them separate in a way, they feel like they can optimize everyone's ability and also their comfortability, because not a lot of people are comfortable with Genie. Because if you put your family tree on there and you connect with someone who's within a fourth cousin range of you, they can edit a lot of your tree.
So do they have like a GEDCOM transfer?
They just put a new GEDCOM transfer system up.
For those who are not familiar with what GEDCOM is, it's a way you can download your tree from one software and upload it to another. GEDCOM has been the standard for years, and I see that on. I was just noticed it's on there now.
So back in 2007, when the website was first founded, they had a GEDCOM upload. But what they started to run into with problems was that when you're trying to merge all of these different family trees and you have people uploading these, you know, 1,000-person trees where, you know, 80% of that is already on Genie, it becomes a tedious task to have to constantly merge and merge and merge. So around 2010, 2011, they ended up taking out any ability to upload your GEDCOM. And ever since then, people have constantly been saying, you know, they want something to allow them to do that. A curator on Genie by the name of Jeff Genties created a tool called Smart Copy, which anyone who has Chrome can put a Smart Copy web browser app on. And when you're on Ancestry.com, you can go to Ancestry.com or MyHeritage or any of those. If you go into the family tree, you can click your little icon for Smart Copy. It'll drop down and it'll ask you to put in the profile number of the person you're copying it to into the Genie tree. So all you need to get is there's a little profile number when you are in Genie. You'll see it in the URL. So it'll say, you know, genie.com/Jarrett Ross/ bunch of whole numbers. And you copy those. And then when you're in Smart Match, you copy that in, and then it'll allow you to transfer over all of their siblings, all of their children, their spouses, their parents. And you can, once you've transferred all of those, you can go up to the parents and you don't need to go and get their number because it's already been connected. So it was an easy way to kind of combat that, but people still wanted the GEDCOMs. And so they've still been working on it. And they finally found a system. I have not used it myself yet. I'm still planning to kind of try it out. I'm hoping to talk to them at Roots Tech a bit more and see what they can say about it. But my understanding is that it's actually designed to automatically find connections within the world tree. And I don't know how it does it, but it basically makes it so that these having to merge hundreds of profiles together is being combated in some way. So it's somehow figuring out that, okay, these are already in the tree, and either giving the people the option or kind of making it so that it's not being just hundreds of profiles uploaded over and over. So
I love technology. You know, when people figure stuff out like that, it's just like, God, why didn't you think of that before? You know,
yeah. So
what took you so long?
yeah. Well, I'm happy they worked hard at it, because I think, you know, with a website like Genie.com, it's like Wikipedia. Its strength is in numbers. So the more people that can use it, the more people that connect, the better well established of a world tree you can have. And I believe right now, gosh, I don't even remember how many, but it's got to be like 22 billion or something people already within the world family tree. Or I hope I'm not overestimating.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of people, and it's, you know, all these people where they're connected in some way.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share with us on the subject?
I just suggest, if anyone hasn't tried out Genie.com, go check it out. They introduced a DNA function to it as well a few years back, which is really useful, especially for anyone who's done mitochondrial DNA or Y-DNA. It'll actually, if anyone else has uploaded who is on that same patrilineal or matrilineal line and they've done their haplogroup, it'll actually show whether or not you match.
Okay.
So that's very useful. So just check out a whole bunch of stuff. If you go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/GenieVlogger, you can find a whole bunch of videos about Genie. My most recent video was actually a tutorial video about how to navigate the world family tree. Because it's, once you get into the view, which you will need Flash to view it, they have an HTML version, but it doesn't have as many options to it. But once you get in there, you need a little bit, it's a little cumbersome to get down. There's a little bit of a curve to learning it.
Well, all right. If people want to find you, how do they do that?
Well, they can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/GenieVlogger. They can also find me Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at GenieVlogger. If they want to learn more about some of my history with things, you can go to my blog, sephardicgenealogy.blogspot.com. You can see a lot of my older articles and some of the things I was interested in. And you can
I understand. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you can also contact me at genievlogger@gmail.com.
Oh, wonderful. So for those who are watching at home, if you're looking for a professional genealogist to help you with this subject, Jarrett's your guy.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and
Sure.
I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was great to do. It was wonderful to meet you.
Yes, and we will in person one of these days, since we're both in the same state. So, all right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Connie.
Hey, I want to thank Jarrett for spending some time with us today and educating us on Dutch Jewish genealogy. This guy clearly knows his stuff. Don't forget, he has a YouTube channel called Genie Vlogger, and there's a link for that in the show notes below. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you like that episode. Subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified each time we upload a video. And until next time, keep on climbing your family tree.